All right, so are you ready to dive into Chainsaw Man? You know, you're hearing the buzz, you're seeing the memes, and now you want to know, does the anime like actually live up to the hype?
Yeah, does it deliver?
We've got a whole stack of IMDb user reviews here,
Definitely.
and trust me, things get pretty interesting.
Interesting might be an understatement.
Okay.
This show has really sparked some passionate responses online.
Yeah.
It's got a sky-high 9 out of 10 on IMDb.
Wow.
But the reviews we've got, they reveal a pretty fascinating mix of love and hate
Really?
and everything in between.
Okay, so let's start with Denji,
Okay,
our chainsaw-wielding protagonist.
right?
Some viewers found him to be a surprisingly complex character.
Yeah,
There was one review that even mentioned the irony of Denji like wanting to escape this brutal past,
right.
only to potentially become someone else's pet.
Yeah, that's what makes Denji so intriguing, right?
Yeah.
On the surface, he's fixated on, shall we say, simple pleasures.
Okay.
But that seems to be a symptom of, a deeper longing.
I see.
He's starved for affection,
Right.
for a normal life. And maybe those desires, however unconventional,
Yeah.
are his way of trying to fill that void.
But that's where the divide comes in, right?
Right.
Because for some viewers, that portrayal just doesn't land.
Yeah,
One review even said the main character's primary motivation is boobies. As a guy who went through puberty, I can relate, but also as a guy who loves kitties, this episode had me on edge the whole time.
oh wow.
So it's like, can you relate to his desires, or are they a complete turnoff?
Exactly. And it makes you wonder if those who find Denji off-putting
Yeah,
are maybe missing that deeper layer.
right.
Or perhaps the show's portrayal of masculinity, particularly teenage masculinity, just doesn't resonate with them.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating debate about character depth versus potentially problematic tropes.
Definitely. And that debate seems to play out visually, too.
Uh-huh.
The animation, especially during the fight scenes, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
One reviewer said, it's like watching a river flow, which I think perfectly captures that, fluid and energetic style.
It does.
Then there's the CGI.
Oh, yes, the CGI.
Yeah.
Kind of a double-edged chainsaw, isn't it?
It is.
Some reviewers praise it for pushing the boundaries of anime visuals,
Uh-huh.
but others find it jarring, especially compared to the more traditional animation style.
And it's interesting because even those who, generally, the CGI admit, it can look off at times.
Yeah.
There's one review that mentions how the CGI for Denji's devil form looks great in motion,
Right.
but when he's standing still, it suddenly feels out of place.
It raises the question, is the CGI a bold artistic choice or a technical limitation?
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of both.
Right.
And it speaks to the larger conversation around CGI in anime and whether it can ever truly capture the same nuance and detail as hand-drawn animation.
Speaking of nuance, the story itself seems to be just as polarizing as Denji.
It does.
Reviewers throw around words like weird, quirky, and even derivative at first glance.
Yeah.
But there's the sense that the show's true weirdness, its unique blend of horror and comedy unfolds as the story progresses.
I think that's a key point.
Yeah.
Chainsaw Man doesn't hold your hand.
Right.
It throws you into this bizarre world and lets you figure things out as you go.
Oh.
Some viewers love that sense of discovery, the way the story subverts expectations.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But for others, that unpredictability can be frustrating.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some reviews found the story to be lacking in depth, like it's rushing through plot points and character development to get to the next crazy action sequence.
Interesting.
So it seems like you either embrace the chaos or you're left feeling a little lost.
Which makes me think about how we consume media today.
Yeah.
Are we so used to neatly packaged narratives that something like Chainsaw Man, with its jagged edges and unpredictable turns, feels jarring?
Interesting.
It's almost like the show is challenging our expectations of what a story should be.
Okay, so we've got divisive characters, stunning visuals with some CGI quirks,
Uh-huh.
and a story that either grabs you or leaves you feeling lost.
Right.
What about the sound? Because the reviews rave about Chainsaw Man's audio experience.
Oh, the sound design is phenomenal.
Really?
It's incredibly immersive, using everything from subtle sound effects to a full-blown orchestral score to amplify the emotions of each scene.
And the opening theme is wild, right?
It is.
Reviewers called it unpredictable and erratic, which seems to be a running theme with this show.
It's true.
And the choice to have 12 different ending themes is genius.
Yeah.
It adds to the sense that Chainsaw Man is constantly evolving, defying convention, conventions at every turn.
Absolutely.
And the composer, Kensuke Ushio,
Yeah,
really deserves a shout-out.
he does.
His music adds so much depth and atmosphere to the show.
Right.
Whether it's highlighting the brutality of a fight scene or adding a layer of unsettling eeriness to a quiet moment.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's safe to say the sound is a major win for Chainsaw Man.
Definitely.
But what about the voices behind those characters?
Oh, yeah.
The reviews mention some standout performances.
Absolutely. The voice acting is top-notch, especially for Denji and Mikima. Reviewers say their performances feel authentic and emotionally resonant, bringing an extra layer of complexity to these already fascinating characters.
So the voice acting elevates the characters even further.
It does.
But there's one more elephant in the room we need to address.
Oh?
The gore.
Yes, the gore.
It's Chainsaw Man, so you know things are going to get bloody.
Of course.
But even knowing that some viewers found the level of violence excessive and questioned whether it was truly necessary or just there for shock value.
Interesting.
While others argue that the graphic nature is essential to the story, that it reflects the brutal world Denji inhabits.
Okay.
One review even praised Studio MAPPA for not shying away from the details, mentioning a scene with a severed hand that was incredibly realistic and disturbing.
Wow.
So it seems like the gore is another element that either adds to the experience or detracts from it, depending on your tolerance for, shall we say, visceral imagery.
It's fascinating how something so subjective can be so divisive.
It is.
And it speaks to the power of art to evoke such strong visceral reactions.
Right.
But the question remains, is the gore in Chainsaw Man gratuitous? Or does it serve a deeper purpose?
That's a good question.
Perhaps that's something we'll uncover as we delve further into these reviews.
Well, buckle up, because I have a feeling this dive is about to get even more interesting.
Indeed, we've only just scratched the surface of what Chainsaw Man has to offer, both in terms of its content and the passionate debates it sparks.
Yeah. So we've talked about the animation, the story, those unforgettable sound cues, even the gore.
Yeah,
But does all of this add up to a show that lives up to the hype?
that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And based on these reviews, the answer seems to be...
What's that?
It depends.
On what exactly?
Well, on your tolerance for unconventionality, I'd say
Okay.
Chainsaw Man is not your typical anime.
Right.
It throws a lot at you, bizarre characters, a chaotic storyline, jarring visuals, and a whole symphony of sound.
And that's either exhilarating or overwhelming, depending on the viewer. It seems like those who are willing to embrace the chaos, to let the show wash over them, are the ones who come away truly impressed.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, throw all the weirdness you want at me, I'm here for the ride.
Yeah.
And those viewers tend to find incredible depth in the very elements that others find off-putting.
Like Denji, for example.
Right.
We talked about how his character is either seen as deeply complex or frustratingly one-dimensional.
Yeah.
But what if that's intentional? What if his seemingly shallow motivations are a way of masking a deeper trauma?
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
It's like the show is saying, don't judge a book by its cover or a chainsaw devil by his cut. Well, you get the idea.
Right.
There's more to Denji than meets the eye, but you have to be willing to look for it.
And that goes for the story as well.
Uh-huh.
Some viewers find it predictable, others find it refreshingly unpredictable.
Yeah,
But maybe it's less about the plot itself and more about how it's told.
I see.
Chainsaw Man doesn't follow a traditional narrative structure.
Right.
It's more like a series of vignettes,
Okay.
each one offering a glimpse into this strange and violent world.
And those vignettes are packed with visual and auditory details that elevate the experience.
Yeah.
The fight scenes with their fluid animation and those heart-pounding sound effects are a perfect example.
Yeah.
They're not just spectacles of violence. They're ballets of blood and steel choreographed with incredible precision.
And even those who criticize the CGI admit that it can be breathtaking at times.
Right.
Like that scene where Denji transforms into the Chainsaw Devil for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
It's this jarring, chaotic eruption of CGI that perfectly captures the raw power and primal energy of the moment.
That's where the CGI really shines, when it's used to enhance the emotional impact of a scene.
Right.
And when you combine that with the incredible sound design,
Uh-huh.
those guttural roars, the screech of metal against flesh, the haunting orchestral score,
Yeah.
it creates an experience that's both terrifying and exhilarating.
So maybe that's the key to understanding Chainsaw Man.
Maybe.
It's not about finding a perfect story or flawless animation.
Right.
It's about surrendering to the chaos,
Uh-huh.
embracing the contradiction, and letting yourself be surprised.
I think you've hit the nail on the head.
Really?
Chainsaw Man is an experience, not just a story.
Okay.
It's a sensory overload, a roller coaster emotion, a challenge to your expectations of what anime can be.
Which brings us back to you, the listener.
Right?
Does Chainsaw Man sound like a show you'd enjoy?
Do you crave unpredictability? Do you enjoy stories that challenge conventions?
Okay.
Are you willing to be disturbed, surprised, and maybe even a little disgusted?
Yeah.
If so, then Chainsaw Man might just be the anime for you.
But what if you're not sure?
Yeah.
What if you're intrigued by the visuals and the sound, but hesitant about the gore and the chaotic storyline?
Well, that's where the beauty of reviews comes in.
Oh, I see.
You can read through different perspectives, see what resonates with you, and maybe even discover something you wouldn't have considered otherwise.
And that's what this deep dive is all about, right?
Yeah.
Giving you the tools to make an informed decision, to explore different perspectives, and ultimately decide if Chainsaw Man is worth adding to your watch list.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, it's your viewing experience that matters most.
Right.
But we're here to help you navigate the hype, understand the controversies, and maybe even spark a little curiosity along the way.
And who knows, maybe you'll discover a new favorite anime.
You might.
Or maybe you'll walk away with a newfound appreciation for the power of art to evoke such strong and diverse reactions.
Either way, this deep dive has only just begun.
Oh, really?
We've still got a lot to unpack, from the symbolism hidden within the story to the broader themes of power identity and the human condition.
And we can't forget about those 12 different ending themes.
Oh, that's right.
Each one a unique piece of the Chainsaw Man puzzle.
Exactly.
So are you ready to dive even deeper?
I know I am. Let's see what other surprises this chainsaw-wielding, double-hunting, strangely relatable Denji has in store for us.
Okay, so we've established that Chainsaw Man is a wild ride, a visual and auditory feast that's not afraid to push boundaries and challenge expectations.
And that's what makes it so compelling. It's a show that demands your attention, it forces you to think, and ultimately leaves you with more questions than answers.
Which is exactly what we love about a good deep dive, right?
It is.
It's not about finding all the answers.
No.
It's about exploring the questions, digging beneath the surface, and discovering those hidden layers of meaning.
And Chainsaw Man is a treasure trove of hidden meaning.
It is.
From the symbolism embedded in each character's design to the broader themes of power identity and the very nature of humanity, there's so much to unpack.
For example, let's go back to Denji for a moment. We've talked about his seemingly shallow motivations, his obsession with, well, let's just say physical intimacy.
Right.
But what if we look at those desires through a different lens?
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
It's not just about teenage hormones, is it?
Exactly. It's about something much deeper, something that speaks to the core of Denji's character.
Okay.
He's been deprived of love, affection, even basic human decency for his entire life, so those desires, however unconventional they may seem, are his way of seeking connection, of trying to fill that void.
It's a poignant reminder that even the most seemingly superficial desires can stem from a place of deep longing, and it makes Denji a far more sympathetic character, even if you don't always agree with his methods.
And that complexity extends to the other characters as well, particularly Makima.
Yes.
She's this enigmatic figure who seems to hold all the cards, manipulating Denji and the other devil hunters for her own mysterious purposes.
What's fascinating about Makima is that she's both alluring and terrifying.
Yeah.
She represents power control and the seductive nature of manipulation, and her relationship with Denji is a constant push and pull, blurring the lines between affection and dominance.
It's like she's holding up a mirror to Denji's own desires, forcing him to confront his deepest fears and insecurities, and that's where the show's exploration of identity really comes into play.
Right, Denji is constantly questioning who he is, what he wants, and where he belongs.
Yeah.
Is he a human or a devil, a hero or a pawn? And the show never gives us easy answers. It leaves us to grapple with those questions alongside Denji as he stumbles through this chaotic world.
And that's what makes Chainsaw Man such a rewarding experience.
I agree.
It's not about finding all the answers. It's about embracing the journey, the messiness, the contradictions. It's about confronting those uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world around us.
And it's about having a blast while doing it.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that Chainsaw Man is also incredibly entertaining.
Right.
The fight scenes are epic, the music is phenomenal, the characters are memorable, and the story is just plain weird in the best possible way.
It's like the creators took all the conventions of shonen anime and threw them in a blender with a healthy dose of dark humor, social commentary, and existential dread, and somehow it works.
It's a testament to the power of creativity, of taking risks and pushing boundaries, and it's a reminder that even in the darkest of stories, there can be moments of beauty, humor, and even hope.
So if you're looking for an anime that will challenge you, entertain you, and leave you thinking long after the credits roll, then Chainsaw Man is definitely worth checking out.
And even if it's not your cup of tea, you can't deny the impact it's had on the anime world.
True.
It's sparked conversations, pushed creative boundaries, and reminded us that there's always room for something new, something different, something chainsaw-y.
That about wraps up our deep dive into Chainsaw Man, the anime that's equal parts heartwarming, horrifying, and hilarious.
We hope you enjoyed this exploration of the show's many layers, from its stunning visuals and heart-pounding soundtrack to its complex characters and thought-provoking themes.
But remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation.
It is.
Now it's your turn to dive in, form your own opinion, and then maybe even share them with us.
We'd love to hear what you think.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those deep dives coming. Who knows what fascinating worlds await us?
Exactly.